Hello, today is April 17 of 2020. My name is Fabiola Padron. I'm interviewing Jorge Alvarez for the University Library Special Collections and Archives at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Hereafter abbreviated as UTRGV, this project is in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please note, Mr. Alvarez, that this interview will be placed in the University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. The University Library Special Collections and Archives will archive your interview along with any other paragraphs or other documentation you are willing to share. UTRGV University Library will restrain copyright and non-exclusive right to the interview and any other material you donate to the Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting to make sure you agree to our interview procedures before we continue. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say yes, I agree, or no, I disagree after each question. The first question is, do you give University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV consent to archive your interview and your material at the UTRGV University Library?
Yes, I agree.
Do you grant UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives the right, title, and interest and copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes, I agree.
Do you agree to allow UTRGV Library Special Collections and Archives to post this interview on the internet where it might be viewed by people around the world?
Yes, I agree.
Do you grant the University Library Special Collections and Archives consent to share your Zoom interview with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion on the Voices of Pandemic Oral History Minute Project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes, I agree.
As you recall, we previously filled out a pre-interview form. We use information for the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in the secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sent it UTRGV Library Special Collections and Archives, we will have stripped out any contact information from yourself or family members so that it will not be a part of the public file. Your public file will only be accessible at UTRGV University Library. The final 2 questions ask for your consent on what I described. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in the public file available to researchers at UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives?
Yes, I agree.
On occasion, UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and Voces receive requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent to us to share your phone number or your email with the journalist?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you for your consent. Your experience and histories mean a lot to us at UTRGV University Connections and Archives. I look forward to what you say in the interviews questions I will now ask. So a little bit inside of the project is that we provide Mexican American, Hispanic, Latino, Latinas, Latinx people accessibility to tell their COVID-19 pandemic stories in a meaningful way that results in quality digital documentation and institutional archive preservation so students, academics, and other in the public may learn about, study, or reference to these stories now and in the future to better understand how this pandemic affected the Latino community and potentially create relevant solutions. So hello, Mr. Alvarez, again, thank you for making the time to meet with me. Like I said previously, your stories Your stories and experiences are very valuable to us at UTRGV's Special Collections and Archives, and to our partners at the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Because you are a student at the University of Texas at Austin and a member of the Longhorn Racing Team, as well as a son and a brother, I know you have many experiences that you would like to share how COVID-19 has impacted you and your family as well as your academic life. One thing before we get into the talk of COVID-19, can you please share a little bit about yourself, who you are and how you wish to be known? Who is Jorge Alvarez?
Hi, well, I am currently a college student attending the University of Texas at Austin. I am a Latin American pursuing a degree in STEM currently, computer science. Uh, yeah, and that's about it.
Well, thank you for your answer. So I will be asking you to share some stories and memories of the COVID-19 when it made its biggest impact in 2019. Again, answer if you feel comfortable, and you can tell me to stop if you wish to not answer the question. So the first question is, can you share your first acknowledgement of COVID-19 outbreak?
Yeah, my first acknowledgement of it was probably when school got canceled the week after spring break because of a new virus that was spreading across the country. And at first, I didn't think it was anything serious, but then school got canceled again the following week and again, and it happened until school got canceled completely for the rest of the year.
Through what kind of media did you first hear about the virus?
It was mostly school emails and my own research that I found after I knew of the virus's existence.
How would you say your feelings were about it when you found out?
At first, I didn't care because I thought it was just an easy way to get an extra week off of school. But like I said earlier, when school got canceled completely, it got a little bit real and scary.
What would you um what would you say that what kind of precautions you and your family first took when the pandemic started?
Well, my dad ended up moving to the RV because he was working at the time and he was most likely to expose the rest of the family. And then my mom whenever she would go to the grocery store, she would wipe down all the products that people like may have touched.
Mhm.
And then me and my brother weren't allowed out of the house.
Yeah, that must have been hard. I mean, it was hard for everyone as well, but I can't imagine what it was to be that separated. Um, well, the next set of questions I will be asking you are about the impact that COVID-19 had in your family and your advocacy with the Longhorn Racing Team. So the first question would be, well, you mentioned that your father worked as a federal agent, and so what were your feelings towards that too? How did that affect your daily life? The reminder that he could be exposed.
Well, I wasn't able to see him anymore for a long while, and it made me feel worried because I knew he was pretty at risk, and I was pretty scared for him, and I was also sad because I couldn't see him, and that was what made up most of my feelings for that.
So would you say that COVID-19 really affected your family overall?
Yes, I would say it did because it split us up.
Thank you for your answer. Um, you also mentioned that you were part of an organization called Longhorn Racing at the University of Texas at Austin. Would you share how COVID-19 impacted the way that your organization functioned?
Yeah, it halted progress a lot because for most of our work, we needed to be in person and or in workshops. Except that whenever a case broke out, we would have to shut down workshops or like a room that we use, and we wouldn't be able to get work on the car done because there was risk of getting other people sick, and that really put us back, like in deadlines that we needed to meet in order to be competitive for the upcoming contest in May.
So how would you say now we're moving to another, this is more of your opinion kind of basis. You can answer if you're comfortable. If not, you can just tell me to skip it. So would you say you agree with the way that people acted when they heard about the food shortage when the pandemic first started?
No, I did not agree with the actions of many people uh, when that happened. I feel like there was a lot of panic for really no reason. It's not like we ran out of food. They people just started stockpiling, and because of that, it made it harder for other people to get food and other essentials like toiletries.
Hmm.
I feel it was very blown out of proportion.
Would you say would you say that your family was prepared or calmed about the situation? Why and why not?
I wouldn't say we were prepared because I don't think anyone was ready for that. I don't think anyone was expecting a pandemic or a new virus outbreak.
Hmm.
Uh, but as far as how we reacted, I feel we reacted pretty well. We we made a plan and we followed through and we took precautions, and thankfully no one in our family got sick either, so I feel like our precautions were pretty valid, and that we acted good, that we did a good job.
Hmm. So the next question is, how did you feel about the regulations that were being placed in order to prevent the spread of the virus? Did you think they were good enough, or did you think that they made something that they could have done better?
I feel that the quarantine was needed and that they did a good job in enacting one. I feel maybe they could have done it a little sooner, like
Mhm.
earlier in the outbreak to for it to be more effective. And they also could have made it a little longer, just because as soon as it ended, things went back to normal, and it pretty much was another outbreak or another wave. Uh, as far as mask mandates go, I supported the mandate, and yeah, for the most part, I feel like it was handled pretty well. Just the fact that the quarantine could have gone a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Um, and did you think your county did a good job when it came to minimizing the spread? Like in the stores, the regulations in the stores and whatnot.
I feel they did the best they could with the fact that uh, usually there's a lot of people in the stores, and I mean I don't know what else they could have done besides enforce a mask mandate and social distancing. So yeah, I feel like they did the best they could.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And the next set of questions I will be asking you will be regarding the impact that your experience in your education your experience in your education or changes that happened because of COVID-19. So the first question is how has COVID-19 changed the way that you and your family receive education?
Um, well, at first it changed the way we received education because everything was virtual and online. I feel like my siblings especially suffered from that because I feel they weren't learning as effectively and their grades dropped. But I mean, as it is now, everything is pretty much back to normal. I mean, besides like the max and everything. But I feel that now, like 2 years later, it may have put them behind a little bit. But I think they're doing well now, and they're catching up now that everything's back to normal.
So could you share with me what kind of challenges you faced when you moved on to full online mode?
Yeah, it was very hard to stay focused and really engage with the class when a lot of it was just black screens with other students' names on it. I feel my teachers did try really hard to keep us engaged, but it's just the fact that there was really nothing like for us to cling on to or really motivate us. At the time, we were all pretty worried about COVID, so it made learning virtually very difficult.
Mhm.
And that was my uh, that was my junior year. Senior year was a lot different because I feel the school districts had more time to prepare over the summer, so they had a more rigorous plan of action, and the school year went by a lot more efficiently because of a lot of restrictions and plans they set in place during the summer of COVID.
Or you say there were any resources provided, like maybe Wi-Fi or any devices that were provided to access to a better education for you?
For me personally, no, but I know of other students that received free Wi-Fi as well as um, iPads or other electronic devices. I think a few even got laptops. So yeah, I know there was resources available.
So you would say that your school or school district was very helpful to the community during the tough times of the pandemic?
Yeah, they also offered free food in some schools in the morning. So yeah, I believe so.
Thank you for your answer. So you mentioned before that you graduated as a valedictorian of your high school. Would you say that with the change into online, was it difficult to keep your place at the top of your class?
I think for me personally, it was just very difficult to stay motivated and want to do my work. That was probably my biggest problem. Just just actually doing my homework. But other than that, I feel I learned to teach myself pretty well, and I I managed to keep up my grades.
You,
And, and by I managed to teach myself pretty well, I mean that I feel uh, online school is, I don't know, for me personally, it was very difficult to learn through virtual.
Mhm.
So I ended up teaching myself a lot of the time.
Yes, I found myself doing the same because of the lack of when I wouldn't say interest, but the lack of motivation that I had whenever the Zoom meetings were there. Mm. So would you say you were able to graduate with the satisfaction with so you had satisfaction in the outcome that you graduated with despite the effects that COVID-19 had in your education?
Well, I feel like I was robbed of a senior year, but as far as like as far as like getting my education completed, I mean, I feel they did the best they could. So yeah, I was satisfied.
Okay, thank you for your answer. So the next set of questions I will be asking you will be regarding your healthcare when the COVID-19 pandemic was at its highest point of exposure. The first question is what concerns did you have about healthcare as a result of COVID-19?
Uh, I don't believe anyone in my immediate family got hurt or needed to go to or needed to get hospitalized during COVID. So I don't think receiving health care was really on my mind. I think it was just preventing uh, getting the actual disease.
So, as of the result of the COVID-19, I know that a lot of people experience not illnesses, but different reactions to it. Would you say if you're comfortable to answer, would you say you had any mental challenges that you had to overcome because of the COVID, like psychological challenges that you had to overcome?
Um, well, it was very depressing to be in your house all day, or yeah, not being able to go out or see other people, or also being stuck with the same people. Um, so I mean, sometimes I mean tensions can run pretty high if you're not allowed to leave the house and you're stuck seeing the same people over and over. Like you're stuck in the same space with them. But I feel I was okay for the most part. I mean, I was also bored out of my mind, but I feel I wasn't affected as much as other people because I know other people uh, really went through a lot.
Thank you for that answer. So, did you go to the doctor's office whenever the pandemic was going on? Did you go to the doctor's office or you didn't at all?
I did towards the end well, I did like a year and a half after the initial outbreak, so things weren't as crazy. But I had messed up my hand because the weight had fallen on it, and I had ended up going to a day night clinic near my house. And but as far as I could tell, things weren't. I didn't see any like COVID affecting it in any way besides like masks. I feel I feel the healthcare I received wasn't really uh, affected by the pandemic. But it also could have been just that it was a year and a half later after the initial outbreak.
Mhm. So for the next question, again, it's regarding your opinion, and if you feel comfortable talking about it. If not, then um, you can tell me to skip, and I will skip over it, and I will continue to the next question. So the first question will be, did you think that the hospitals were doing everything they could to prevent the spread?
Yes, I feel like they were overwhelmed, and you could see it in the news. And yeah, I feel they were pretty overwhelmed, and they were doing the best they could with the while many hospitals being understaffed as well. I don't see how you can maintain perfect COVID precautions while being surrounded by sick patients Yeah, I feel they did the best they could, pretty much.
Would you say that the announcements that the hospitals and the news were giving out regarding distancing and face masks really helped the community, really impacted it?
I feel that yeah, it did. I feel a lot of people down here in the valley still use masks actually, compared to like in Austin where like I see almost no one uh, on campus wearing a mask. I feel here in the valley it was uh, particularly stressed, and I mean I can see the difference when I go home to visit. So yeah, I feel the hospitals that its announcements were effective.
Thank you for your answer. And so the next set of questions will be asking about the political stand that you had during the start and throughout the pandemic and how your view affected your life. Once again, this part will be maybe sensitive to you, and you're free to say that you do not wish to answer the questions, and I will proceed with the next.
Can you elaborate what you mean by political stance?
Political stance as if what your government did or what you think if your state the state of Texas did a good job in maintaining the COVID-19 spread.
I believe I could be wrong, but I believe Texas had one of the highest case like number of cases. I also think that we were one of the first to really relax on some restrictions. So at least for me, I was pretty disappointed because I feel that we could have done better with a lot more. By just being in quarantine a little bit longer and having those restrictions in place a little longer. As far as government action, I feel that we could have been better prepared. We should have been better prepared, and I feel that uh, there should have been national action a lot quicker it was uh, than it was done.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There should have been a different, better action and faster action because, yeah, Texas, we were the first state to actually open most of groceries and banks. So the next question is, how would you say that politics affected the view that COVID-19 was being handled when it first started?
Um, I feel that for some reason or another, it became like a I don't know exactly what happened, but it ended up being that most people thought conservatives were against the masks, and then that Democrats were for the mask, and then it ended up being a whole thing with like Trump, and I'm not exactly sure what happened, but it became like to me like almost a joke. I feel that no matter what party you're in or who you support, that the main goal should have been uh, maintaining the disease and and keeping everyone safe. I feel that politics kind of straight. I feel like politics kind of mess with that and it made it more difficult to do that.
Thank you for thank you for your answer. So the next question is, would you state that the decisions being made from the president were rational about the closing of the borders and the airports?
Yeah, because I feel like you can't control what any other country does to uh regulate uh something like COVID. So I think the safer option would just be to close off connections to other countries, at least for a little while, because it's not like you can really control what they do.
Yes, that's right. And so the next question is how would you say COVID affected the way that we all view political strategies?
Uh, yeah, I feel like a lot of us saw that a lot of government action really is motivated by, I don't know, how many votes you can get and what actions give you the most support, even if perhaps they may not be the best uh for running. I feel like we really saw that yeah, I feel like we really saw that government action was really motivated by, personal gain and maybe having a majority back you, even if it wasn't always the right decision. Like for example, like in Texas, there's a huge anti-mask community, and everyone wanted to open up the stores and everything. So I mean, Texas was one of the first, and you saw that as soon as everything opened up again, there was a huge surge in cases.
Yes, thank you for your answer. So would you say that the United States, overall, or maybe just in your state, was taking the best precautions that they could to the prevent the further outbreak of the COVID?
I mean, as far as the actions they took, I feel they were good. I just don't feel they were either long enough or early enough. I feel that is where they lack the most, both state and national government. I mean,
Thank you for your answer. So the next um the next questions will be regarding the time that you spent working, if you did, and how COVID-19 affected your work-related environment. So for background, could you please share with me what kind of work you do and where you work?
well, I don't work anymore because I moved to Austin for college. But uh, during the pandemic, I worked as a vendor in the Alamo Flea Market, and as far as how it was affected by COVID, there was a lot less people, obviously, because a lot of people were scared of going out. And there was also a mask mandate uh, that was enforced. But yeah, overall, business was dropped a lot, and there was a lot less people, and it was kind of hard on the vendors because the the rent for selling at the Alamo Flea Market was still pretty high.
So were you able to keep your job after the so you were able to keep your job after the pandemic started? So if yes, were you able to why were you able to keep employed? If not, did you think why did you think you became unemployed?
Yes, I was still able to keep my job. I still made enough, thankfully, to where it was profitable to still sell. Um, I just believe that just initially, when the well, like the first 6 months with the pandemic, uh, we originally thought of quitting because it was really hard because there was not a lot of people, but slowly and steadily, after a while, people started coming back. So I believe that's just why I was able to keep it because I was able to outlast the the initial like worry difficulties with the outbreak.
Uh, so did you have any worries financially, and why?
Uh, for my family, no, because my dad was able to keep his job. And for me, not really, because I mean I was a high school student. I didn't really need money. I just did it as a side job. So thankfully, no.
Thank you for your answer. So the next segment of questions will be regarding your opinion on the vaccinations that were being provided by the government. If you don't mind me asking, did you get your vaccine?
Yes, I did.
Did you experience any side effects?
Um, no, I just my arm got sore, but that was pretty much it.
Were you worried when the vaccine first came out and they announced it might be a requirement?
Uh, Not particularly. No, I was just relieved that there was a vaccine out there.
So for some of the final questions on the COVID-19 pandemic, does that section ask you to share your stories about the pandemic and the response by local, state, or national elected officials? Feel free to respond or pass any of the questions. Do you feel satisfied with the local response of COVID-19 in the Cameron County over this past 2 years?
Uh, yes, for the most part, yes. I feel that with the social distancing and the mask mandates, it was handled pretty well. Uh, there was also a lot of help. There's a lot of food drives, and uh, there was a lot of like food that was available to people maybe going through hard times, and there was a lot of financial aid as well as uh, rules and restrictions placed. I feel like Cameron County handled it pretty well.
So you would say you're satisfied with the state response of COVID-19 led by government Abbott over the last couple of years?
Mm, I wouldn't say I was satisfied because I mean I feel like you could always do something better. So I would I wouldn't say I'm dissatisfied, but I'm also not satisfied. If I feel like I said earlier, I feel that things should have been done quicker and longer.
And how do you feel about the national response of COVID-19 led by President Trump in 2020 and then President Biden in 2021?
Um, I believe President Trump maybe handled things poorly initially. I mean, that also might be because no one else, well, no one expected a pandemic to hit. But I feel like as as a national government, I feel like they still should have been better prepared for what came. And as far as Joe Biden, well, I mean, I haven't really kept up to be honest because the COVID has been a thing for a while now, and I mean things look pretty normal now. So to be honest, I haven't really been keeping up with new restrictions or like new any new I mean I guess laws or actions carried out by Joe Biden. Uh, so I wouldn't really be able to say if I'm satisfied or not.
Well, thank you for your answer. Would you say if you had any power of political office to respond to COVID-19, what would you do differently?
Uh, If I were a president and this had already happened, I would uh, definitely set up some precautions and uh, an organization that was ready for this, even in the unlikely event happened again. And uh, if I was currently president, uh, I'd pretty much just work on making sure that everyone is getting the vaccines and well, the people that want to take it and raising awareness for the importance of it.
So this is a special year in our national democracy because it's midterm election voting year. Do you plan on voting? And if so, is the issue of COVID-19 going to factor into your votes?
Uh, I don't remember when the last day to register to vote was. I don't know if is it still available or not. Do you know?
I believe it is still available. They're still sending the cards in through mail, so you can register, and you can also register online.
I believe I tried registering online, but I needed to. Uh, I needed to uh, send out. I needed to print out a copy and send it through mail. So if I end up doing that, then yeah, I will. But it's like a 50-50 of me doing that, just because I'm kind of lazy.
And there are also some other resources at the library. The card that you might need to send through the mail, they're also in the library.
I might end up checking that out. I mean, I live in a dorm, so I really don't get mail.
Oh,
But yeah, I'll see. I'll see what's available.
okay. Well, thank you for your answer either way. Um, would you consider the national response to COVID pandemic in your vote a president candidate if you do end up voting?
Wait, can you repeat the question?
Would you consider the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic in your vote for a presidential candidate?
Um, I would. Well, are you asking if like Trump were to run again and Biden?
Yes,
Because
go
because if
ahead.
someone was running that wasn't like in a position of power, at least for me, it'd be pretty hard to judge using the pandemic as a factor. But if we're talking like previous President Trump and current President Joe Biden, yes, it would be a factor.
So, is there any sort of help or aid you could have used at the peak of the COVID pandemic to make your life more manageable or less stressful? Or if there's any assistance you wish you had at the point of the pandemic?
Um, by assistance, are you referring to like my school district or Cameron County or?
Yes, like overall, the state or the overall, like your, I guess, government help.
Um, the stimulus check was nice, and there's also something like that for UT Austin. Um, yeah, I mean, it really helps. But for me, mostly it really helped for tuition and stuff.
Thank you for your answer. So, is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experience with COVID-19 that I have not asked you about?
No, I feel your questions were pretty thorough.
Okay, then I get it. I believe this concludes our interview. Thank you again for your time, Mr. Alvarez, for sharing with me today and for sharing your stories, for your collaboration to the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History project.
Of course.